Oh, but I'm disabled.
I just have to share. I have to make it so that you are an admin so you can share your host. Okay, so Yasmin, I'm gonna make you host. So you'll be
Okay.
able to share your screen. If it pops up saying that anybody is gonna come in the room, just press it. And you might have to give me permission to record because if we're switching.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, okay. Change host. Did it make you host?
Yes.
Yay, it's still recording. Okay, we're good.
Okay. Um, can you see my presentation? Okay. Well, um, are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. We are excited for sharing some thoughts about storytelling. Um, my name is Yasmin, as you heard in the first session, and we want to begin by saying that everybody here has an important story, although not everybody wants or needs to share that story in poems, songs, or maybe writing a bestseller. But as humans, we construct our world reading our experiences and giving them interpretations. That's how we can explain why we are and what we are, or why we do what we do. For example, if you ask me why I sing in Mayan, I can tell you all the reasons and all my history, um, just to let you know why I took that decision. And also, if I ask someone why you are participating in this institute, I can know the reasons and how we give meanings to all the actions and all the decisions we have, all the experiences we have. So this workshop is about storytelling, but we want to define that, well, we want to define storytelling as in general meaning, not just as related with performance, with art, because we think that we all are stories, right? And we tell that stories in many ways. Some with songs and poems, and other just with their actions. With our actions, we show who we are. So in this workshop, we will define storytellings in that general way, because we are made of stories, and how we tell that stories not only with artistic performance. We can show those stories in many, many ways, as I say. I will develop this idea by talking about my reality, because in Mayan people, I'm from Mexico and I'm Mayan. And in my story, in this story of my people, we can see how the individual stories impact collective stories. And collective stories also impact into individual stories. And that stories are made through history. um, Later, Katie will talk about a complementary perspective, because if we are in a world of meanings and historical narratives, we also need to know that we are active story builders, and we can heal and rewrite those stories that hurt us as individual or as society. And well, um, about the presentation, so I want to highlight just three ideas: that everybody is a story. We construct our world um, through stories, and what story we made and what stories are we helping to build for others. I, I want to put those ideas just to think about those, those ideas. And also, narratives became truths. All the narratives we hear in our environmental ambience and our history became truths. And we interiorized those ideas. And I think someday we heard with Timari how we classify and how we categorize people into groups. And we think sometimes that we know all about those groups, like like indigenous people. We think, well, this is something that happens here in Yucatan, in Mexico, that sometimes people link native people, indigenous people with the past, and they speak like Mayan culture, and they imagine, I don't know, the old architectonic buildings, um, food, typical food, traditional dress, and sometimes like that. We categorize people, and sometimes here in Mexico, there are people that don't accept that culture is something active and you are moving and you can, I don't know, use a computer, but they think no, Mayas don't use computer. So those ideas uh, comes in historical ways. Uh, our our imagines are very many stereotypes comes because um, we have those stereotypes. How narratives becomes truth in the case of Mayan people, maybe you know it becomes with the violent encounter with Spanish people. From that moment, any component of life was like dehumanized and categorized as barbarian. And I don't want to extend so much in this description of how Native American groups taking America as the whole continent were like tied with many negative concepts, because I think we know how the relation between First Nations was with the Spaniards. And from that until the independence of Mexico, or in general, the independence of countries, not so much change, because in many cases, the independence process was led by sons of Spanish who have already interiorized the story about who we are. So we can see that the historical process were like defining and drawing the, the place of many groups. Let's say Spanish uh, have the power, native people doesn't know, doesn't have science, and many concepts in around those groups. And the psychological print of those days and later keeps passing by generations in many directions. Um, First, there are who want to separate their persons to their roots, hiding their language, trying to widen both the skin and the cultural practices uh, in order to not suffer discrimination. We can see here like a cartoon. I don't know if cartoon is the right word, but um, many people now want to, you know, there are beauty, I don't know how to say, those things that women's and men's put into their faces. There are many here in Mexico just to whitening skin, but also there are people who are whitening their practices and just abandoning their their roots, their traditions. And in other hand, there are people who doesn't know much about who we are. In the case of Mayan, and I don't know if you are thinking about situations similar where you are. Um, yeah, I was a teacher in a private school in Merida, the capital of Yucatan, for many years, and I noted that the young students, despite living in the same territory of the Mayans, didn't have idea of what Mayans are. Their conceptions of Mayan culture was the touristic uh, tale, yeah, like a touristic tale of ancient people, traditional people living in small towns, speaking with a dialect, not with a language, because they think indigenous people or indigenous language are not complete as dominant language. And so we can see those those prints, those like scar faces, yeah, of made it by stories, pro stories about who are the Mayans, and we can see there are full of myths that cause collision between the people who hold them as Mayans or not Mayans. And some consider themselves as part of a modern civilization, they're not Mayans, and others as part of a problem. We have a story about the place of people in the social system. Who are the Mayans, who are the not Mayans, who are the moderns, and who are not the moderns. In general, because um, I can say that it's a general perspective, but there are people who is already deconstructing that narrative. And I don't know if there is a similar situation um, around you, like the one I told you. I'm gonna stop the share just to hear some opinions. I don't know if anybody wants to
I'm
make a comparison about this situation with Mayans living a story made by others. Sorry, Eno?
no.
No?
Living here in South Dakota. We have 5 reservations
Okay.
in our state, and I in my the church I served for 10 years. It's about 100 miles from the reservation, so they can go see. And I asked the kids, have any of you ever been to a powwow? Have you ever been through there? Oh, we just drive through there, but we lock our doors so that we're going to be okay. And I would go out there with other people. Nobody from my church would come, but I'd go out there with other people, and they said, "Well, you make sure you get all your stuff out of your car. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that." And rather than going over to experience the beauty of that culture and to learn their story, they would even though it take them 2 hours to drive over there, most wouldn't try to do that because they didn't want to learn the story of the land, of the state that they're living in, and the people that were just right across the river.
They just keep a story that they learned in mass media, I think, or in, I don't know, maybe the stories comes not just from the things that people said about about groups, but also I think many components or many elements like mass media, like yeah, sometimes even what is not said, or yeah, something that you don't hear also say something about those people. Like for example, in Mayan case, they don't say that we have Mayan literature, Mayan poems, Mayan songs, and if we don't say that, we are creating a story. We are saying something about that thing you are not saying. I don't know if I'm explaining the idea. Yeah, and yeah,
I was gonna
someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, I live in Wyoming now, and so there's such a pervasive, like, I mean, there's the cowboys and Indians thing, but I think
Yeah.
that even like with that narrative, there's so much of the cowboy narrative and so much of the myth around the independence of folks in Wyoming, and so much of what people think about this state, both inside and outside of it, comes from that narrative. And the only context in which Native folks are brought in, of course, is in the context of like conquest, and folks really don't talk about, you know, what people are doing out on the Wind River Reservation right now. But it's such a strong, like, it's such a strong narrative, and it's such a strong myth here that it's the identity of the state, and people hold on to it so strongly that it influences almost everything that happens here politically, you know, with the universities, with everyone. So it's interesting to be in a place where there is such a strong narrative, and to also know that that narrative is a myth completely. It is myth.
Yeah. I teach is the verb, but I don't know how to say teach in past. And yeah, in I give classes to um, American fellows who comes to Mexico to learn Spanish. And I remember that I had a group, maybe they were from Louisiana, I don't remember, but something that they say is that there are people who think that anyone in Louisiana have an alligator or something like that. Ideas about people from their origins of the people. And we are talking about stereotypes, but these stereotypes comes um, became a story, and that story even is not well that stereotypes, even we can laugh of that, or we can think that it's just a little thing, but little thing by little thing you are constructing a story. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take back to presentation to go back. Here is well, those images are from my people, and we can see broadcaster man who is working in the radio station, but the imagine above, it's about the pelota game, the ball game, and many people have that idea of Mayans and don't see that Mayans are here in the present, and we are contemporary as any groups, of course, with our roots, with our traditions, our culture. But yeah, that imagine, it's the general, the dispersed in in many cases around the world. Oh. The importance of decolonizing and deconstructing stories, on to reconstruct stories. Now, mass media, literature, and music in Mayan context is the most powerful tool these days to deconstruct old tales, to transform them into new stories. And yeah, maybe we can argue with someone about what is real, what is truth, um, but we need to think also that narratives took part of the fibers of people, and to transform realities we need to go inside those fibers, go to the heart of people, and that is what Mayan artists are making with music and writing things, writing poems, writing novels. And as I say, we can argue with someone, but we know that there is a language that is more powerful than just speaking. And literature and music in Mayan context is the most powerful tool these days to deconstruct all that old tales. Yeah, poets and musicians are leading the way to make people feel discomfort with the old narratives. In many cases, the performance are spaces where many ideas can be confronted. I sing in a band in Maya language, and sometimes when people see that uh, a Mayan song can be uh, in a rhythm like reggae or ballad or rock, they surprise them because they don't think that like an ancient culture can be part of these days. And well, in many cases, as I say, the performance are those spaces to confront those ideas. First, because we can show our voice in many cases. We have people who talk about us and they don't let us to have the voice. So they decide what to say about us. And if we if we take our story in our hands, first we use our voice. Second, we decide what we need or what we want to say and share. And third, we create community around the vision to be one and to have future. And yeah, another question I have uh, to you is: can you think of other situations where poetry, music, in general, arts uh, are the tools to shut down oppressive narratives to give a chance to others of hope? I put two images here. One, it's about women, and maybe we can think that there are a group also that uh, women have like a stereotype, and in many cases, women are changing the stereotypes and the story around them. And also, I have a picture of Victor Jara. Victor Jara, it's a singer, was a singer in Latin American who took part of a movement singing and giving voice to people who were in oppression. And their their songs was changing the idea of the Latin American people. And the question was if you can think about uh, groups that are changing or are in process to change the, the stereotypes or the narratives around them.
I can think of one. I mean, definitely here in Mexico, we have a lot of native people as well. We have, I think there's like 19 Pueblo tribes and Apache and Dene or Navajo and whatnot. And so I think there tends to be like a little more awareness about Native peoples as just people. I mean, there's definitely still big disconnects. But one example I was thinking of is I'm going to have to turn off my video because my connection's unstable, but I'm going to keep talking for a second. Is in film. I mean, the film Smoke Signals, and there's another one, Dance Me Outside, um, and Powwow Highway, and different things like that in films. There's been some great films that have sort of broken up the narrative, which is real similar to what you're describing there, as just as Native you know, North Americans as being, you know, just in the past and, you know, not existing in the modern world.
Thank you, Laura. I was talking about how we Mayans are taking the responsibility to change the stories around us by singing and writing and working in mass media, spreading a new imagine of us, a new showing what we really are, not letting that the voice of others speak of us. And one of the songs are very important for us. I want to share with you one song written by Daniel May. It's a Mayan songwriter, and the name of this song is Masawal, and we want to share something of what we create. And for that, is Michael here?
I'm here.
And he will join me with the guitar. Yeah. And I'm gonna show the lyrics of in English of that song. The name of the song is Masawal, and I'm gonna sing that song in Mayan, but you can read the meaning in English. Right.
Esta fuercita quieres sacar, te está sudando. ¿Ready? Tienes que quitar tu micrófono.
Sí, eso voy a hacer.
Los audífonos.
Quería solamente poner el micrófono y usarlo aquí.
Ah, bueno.
Bueno, voy a parar.
¿Ready?
Right. speak, Michael. Can you hear me? Thank you. Um, the guitarist. There is another example. I love Chicano Park as an example of how art and activism transformed a place. Yeah, thank you. And just to finish this segment, because also Katie will talk about another perspective, an important perspective of how those stories and those new stories can healing us. And I'm gonna say that I don't know, are you seeing the PowerPoint? Yeah. Yeah, just to saying that Mayan world, as any society, has narratives which deeply influence our relations. There are narratives that lead us to violence or to peace, and we can change the way the world is being read. From one where privilege and power set a natural status quo to another where dignity and respect for human rights is the normal. And that's what is happening with Mayan people, but also can happen anywhere if we are aware of those stories and what are we creating every day, what stories are we constructing, are supporting also, or are we deconstructing. Yeah, but as I said, another important thing about stories is how the process to create these stories can heal people. Right, Katie?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So, do you want me to talk now or?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Okay. So,
just to, are you using a PowerPoint? Do you need, no? Okay.
no. Um, so I wanted to talk with you. So I'm a spoken word poet and a singer songwriter, and a written poet, which I think that's all different. Those are all, for me at least, they're all different processes, whether I'm writing or whether I'm speaking a poem or whether I'm performing a poem. And or whether, so a lot of my spoken word poems, they come spoken, and my written poems come written, and it's very different, at least for me. But I think that all artists have their own process, and I actually am of the belief that everyone is an artist, just an artist of what is the question. And so I wanted to talk about how music, poems, words can heal us. And so, but before I kind of launch into that, I want you to think of a moment, to think of a song or a piece of a song or a piece of a poem that changed your life or helped you to heal from something. So I just close your eyes, and I want you to find that song or poem or story that helped to transform you. And when you have it, open your eyes. We have. So if you feel ready to share what that song or poem or story is, unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about it.
Hi, it's Claire. First, the first song that came to mind is one I learned that was one of Gandhi's favorites, Lead Kindly Light. And the phrase that really helped me, because I've lived on the economic edge as a war tax refuser for most of my life. And being on the edge, there's often fear not very far away. But the words of his song always carried me, and it was, lead kindly light amid the encircling gloom. Lead thou me on. I do not ask to see the distant scene. One step enough for me. And those lyrics became a mantra for me when I really needed to carry on and not let fear overtake me. So,
can you write the name of the song in the chat for us? Just so, yeah.
It's an old Christian hymn, I think.
Yeah.
Because Gandhi was all of the above, Christian, Buddhist, all of them. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Is someone else ready to share?
I'm not going to say that it changed my life, but you know, it was the poem that came to mind when you asked us. It's by Elizabeth Browning, and it goes, for those who see, the earth is crammed with heaven, and every common bush afire, and only those who see this, the rest sit round and pluck blackberries.
Thank you. Is there someone else who would like to share?
So I don't know if Carl remembers this. When I was studying with him in college, we talked about a poem called "For Strong Women." I think Marge Piercy wrote, and I can't recite all of it, but there's part of it that a strong woman loves strongly and needs strongly and is strongly afraid, and it has some really great moments in it. And I think I started to change my ideas about myself, that I could be strong physically, emotionally, and I still, you know, the grocery bagger asked me if I want help, and I go, no, I'm good. So that was an important poem for me.
So is there anyone else who has a burning one to share? Like, because I want to give you an opportunity, but I also, yeah.
All right. I think mine was from a song from a movie. It's just a line, actually. It's just a line from the song. It was a song by, I think, Garfunkel. It's called Sound of Silence. Well, it was just that line, actually. It just made me realize that there's so much noise in silence. There's so much being said in silence. And for me, what I took out of that song was, when you keep quiet and you try to search your inner self in quietness, there's so much you can realize. There's so much noise on the inside. There's so much voices on the inside of you that can transform your life from silence. So it was just a line, actually. And for me, that kind of changed my life. Thank you.
Thank you. So I wanted to take a moment for all of you to bring those forward, because one, I think it's important to remember what changes us and what we want to be anchored in, and songs and poems and music help us to remember ourselves, but also to remember back together, to bring members together, if you to do it again, to put it together. And so that's a one way I think of remembering, because members are like pieces of things. And so, and in remembering, so I wanted you all to remember those things, because I believe that sharing those, it's important to pass them on to each other. It's important to connect each other to these stories that we have experienced our healing. It's important to reconnect with what we experience as healing. And then I also, my experience of being a songwriter and a poet is that the act of writing a song or telling the story of how I feel, or in a poem or a song, helps me to get it out and even understand what it is that I'm feeling. I think that sometimes, you know, we're so much more complicated and deep than we acknowledge when we are not connecting with ourselves. Like, we have a deeper connection, and kind of even beginning to tell our stories through song and poetry allows, even within our own selves. And it also allows us to not be as limited by how we're experiencing reality. And allows us to move forward in a new way from past where we are. And so I'm gonna share a spoken word poem that I wrote, after a disappointment. And I wrote it. And then I also think that we get these, you as in processing your story and sharing your story, or your song or your writing, you give a gift to the world of your own understanding, and then it begins a life of its own. So I wrote this particular poem after a disappointment, and I thought it was just about that disappointment until I performed it for a group of people who had also felt that same thing, or also needed to hear the revelation that is in this story. And so I'm going to share this poem, which is, it's called Revisions. She had imagined a better world, one where you were reliable and wishes believable, and trust not for the foolish, but for the reasonable. She had a good imagination, but reality is reliable and disappointment palpable. Her back was broken before you got here, and she holds her dreams in her eyelashes. They frame all of her visions, and she looked at you and wished wishes. Not of kisses, but of kindness, not of harbors, but of seas where you could travel together into mysteries, and she could dream dreams. Dream dreams where safety is not mythological, and humanity not pathological, and despair not biological. They told her, dreams are for the rich, and she said, I am rich in love and in love with the world. They laughed while you listened and imagined a world where her love mattered. What if trust is not for the foolish, but for the reasonable? What if she's calling for you to be something believable? Reality is reliable and infinitely malleable. Her back was broken before you got here, and she holds her dreams in her eyelashes. They frame all of her visions, so she'll have something to build on when reality needs revisions. So
Very fine. Very nice.
and reality needs revisions, guys. It needs your revisions. It needs our revisions. It needs us to readjust our vision and reinvent our vision and vision all the time. And we cannot create a world that we cannot imagine. And if we allow always the presence of the evil of the world to fill our vision only, we will have nothing to build from. And so, and when we feel like we have nothing to build from, that is when we need to reach for our stories and our poets and our ancestors, like, and what they have, you know, the builders before us who claimed the victory before we got here. Like, that's when we reach for that, for the sound of silence, the song, when you need that, when you need something to remind you that there's restoration in silence. You reach for the story of the strong women, so you know you can be all versions of strong. And they remind you of what you value and what is of value. And our culture, well, the popular culture and the white supremacist culture and the, you know, patriarchal culture, the domination culture, they're very practiced at erasing, at making things, at erasing things, at making things invisible, at silencing things by their own presence, by their own consistent and persistent presence. And so we have to practice making the real world visible, like the world we want to see visible, whether that's in stories or songs. And I think it's just as important, you know, to deconstruct. So poems, you have these poems that deconstruct, where you know, the narrative, the dominant narrative. But then you also have the stories that remind you of the beauty, like this poem about, this poem that Carl brought forward for us, that remind us that the world is still beautiful, that, you know, each moment is precious. And I'm gonna stop there and see if folks wanna say something or have questions or thoughts.
Well, now I'm starting to think of all the songs that have had effect on me. But so I'm sure I'm already thinking of other ones, Wild Beasts, Alpha Female, and I'm gonna, but anyway, thanks for stirring that up. And I really like the thread that you guys are on about narrative. You know, I think a lot of times we don't remember that the stories, that we have a choice in the stories that we're telling and how we're telling them. And yeah, that is how we create our world. That is, yeah, I agree with that. So thank you very much. And your piece was just, both of yours were just amazing.
Thank you.
I don't know a lot about science, but believe that quantum physics says that everything at the very, very basic is vibration.
Hi.
And for me, I'm a Christian pastor. When I heard that, I made the connection, remembered, if you will, the first poem of the 7-day creation story and how God spoke first. and then it was created. It wasn't created and then he named it. He spoke it into creation. The vibration from his ordered the world in which we live in. And I share that with people, and you know, so when we're singing, when we're speaking, we are part of creating with God, I believe.
I believe that also. And then that is reminding me that the truth that we are 70% water. And water responds to vibration. And so it is important for us to embody song and also to hear other people sing. And when we are in the presence of song, it does actually, and when we sing ourselves, it changes our vibration. And so, and that's why I also think it's important to sing together. And the most powerful movements involved people singing together before and during action. And even, you know, like a lot of faith-based things are based around singing together. So that's just what that reminded me of, and I thought it was important to bring forward.
On the subject of speaking things into existence as God did in the beginning, there's an author who wrote a book in the 1920s called The Game of Life and How to Play It, Florence Scovel Shinn. And it's the ideas are Christian influence, but it's weirder than that. It's basically a handbook on how to speak your own life into the existence that you want. And it's worth checking out. A lot of good ideas of affirmations to bring about good things. I'll chat that in if anybody wants to check it out.
Cool. How are we on time for our program, Yasmin? Because I could talk more, but I also am mindful that we had a schedule of magic.
Yeah, I think we have 30 minutes, and I think they can speak more if they want, like two more people.
That was so beautiful, the sense of remembering and revisioning is so perfect for this. And I think also for me, the context of where we have heard or sung a song is part of its power. I can almost never sing or hear "We Shall Overcome" without crying and remembering one of the most powerful spiritual experiences was with a group singing as we were being carried off to waiting police wagons, and just hearing that, the words and the tune. And in very different context of the importance of song, there's a telling in the Talmud of a community that simply read the Holy Torah rather than its usual way of being sung. And a voice went out from heaven and said, "Is there something wrong with my Torah that you do not sing it?" To singing all of our holy words.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Victor, I'm curious, but that was also true of the Psalms, wasn't it? That the Psalms, many of them were really meant to be sung.
Yes, Psalms are chanted generally in Jewish tradition, and every single word in the Hebrew Bible has cantillation marks with it, as well as the vowels as they're written in Hebrew. and many books have their own tune, and some are shared, and some are their own. So yes, the Psalms and everything else.
That reminded me of something from when I was in high school, and it's a little bit of a different example, but I think it was when we were learning Shakespeare plays, and I remember, like, I was fortunate to be introduced to Shakespeare when I was like 9. We did Shakespeare plays at elementary school. It was fun. So I've always loved his plays. And I remember sitting in my classroom in 10th grade, and I can even see where I was sitting at the time. And my teacher said, we were starting to read The Merchant of Venice, which is one of my favorite tales. And my teacher said, this play is meant to be seen and it's meant to be heard. It's not meant to be read. And then we proceeded to sit in class and read it, which made no sense to me whatsoever. But when you see it, it is such a powerful piece of art, and it is such an emotion-evoking play. But it was not meant to be read, certainly.
Yeah.
All right, as we were talking, it just came to my mind that, scriptures in the Bible talks about in Ephesians, it says to speak to one another in psalms and hymns. I think it's just reiterating the importance of the psalms and hymns, like poems, to encourage one another. Yeah.
So Yasmin, Yasmin and I had an exercise we wanted you to try, and because we want to try and build a song together or a poem together. And Yasmin, I forgot what we were going to tell them to do at first, so you remind me.
Yeah. First, we need to think of a word that represents you. Is that clear? First, that just think a word that represents you. If there is one, or a favorite word, okay, that will be the first step. And second, we will share that word, and we will talk a little bit of why that word represents you. Yeah, and later we will say you how we can construct this song or this poem. And we know there are musicians with us. Maybe anyone can join us in making a melody or something. Let's try. Who wants to begin? Who have a word to share? Well, I'm gonna begin. I think my word is resilience. Okay. I think it's a very important thing you need to have in these times.
I'll jump in. My word is flowing. Flowing, flowing. Most of my life I was trying not to flow and be more segmented, but I think that's more the reality of me, that I don't always go where I'm supposed to go in my life, but there's a different kind of uh, some sort of underlying a reason for where I go and when, kind of like water.
Yeah, water is, I think we can, it's like a teacher. I have a symbol of water here. Oh,
Mm.
in my necklace. Yeah. Um, Maybe you can write your word. Laura, thank you. Oh, you have already done.
I'll write mine, but I would say mine is curious. I think I have discovered that I am driven more by my curiosity than by anything else in my world, including a desire for stability or rootedness. You know, just I'm too curious for that, so I kind of wander around, and that would be my word.
Thank you, Sabrina.
My word would be grateful.
Grateful. Thank you, Chris.
I put useful because I like, when I do music, I like to do it in a useful way, like playing for dancers. I'm useful around the house, obviously. Driving forces, I think.
Thank you, Catherine. Audrey, do you want to explain your word?
Having a hard time unmuting. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say abiding, but I think steadfast probably speaks more to what I was trying to convey. And just something that has come to me over decades of trying to achieve dreams that seemed to not materialize very quickly, but maintaining a steadfast faith that they would. So that's it.
I would say meaning. I find it hard to name a quality because they all seem elusive and changing at times, or something I strive toward, but I'm always looking for meaning and seeing meaning, sometimes too much, but it helps when we see it.
I'm having trouble. I think the best I can do is maybe open or looking. You know, I thought of discernment, but that's kind of a hard word for a poem.
Discernment is a great word.
So that's the best I can do at this point.
Thank you. Well, I think everybody have a word, and we
I
can.
don't have a word.
Oh yeah, Kathy.
I'm gonna put ears.
Ears.
And hopeful. Can I have the 2 words? I get 2 words.
If anyone doesn't have, oh, sorry, Dan. Go on.
Yeah, I have people. I think I'm a people person. I love people, and that's my life. I mean, people.
People.
Yeah, people.
Ooh, there's more words coming out right now.
You get to do more than one?
No, I was just seeing like connecting, peacemaker.
I put peacemaker, and then I'm like, well, that's not really one word, and but then as I'm hearing other people, it's connecting. I really love to help people connect with each other and with ideas and new thoughts, and so I think that would probably, so though I am a peacemaker, I think that very much rooted in connecting.
Well, is there anybody who want to share um, their word, or can we go to the next step?
Yeah.
Can we go to the next step? Okay, the next
we can try.
Yeah, we can try. Let's see if this work. And the other thing that we need to do is to write a line with that word, just to see if at the end we can connect all those lines, all those thoughts with your word. Okay?
Wait, so whose job is it to write a line? Who's writing the line? Are we writing the line?
Yeah, we have thought that maybe we hear the word of another people different than us, but I don't know, Katie, do you see it is, do we have time for that, or maybe we can write?
So are we asking them to like create a sentence? Or are we creating the sentence? That's what I forget.
Yeah. We need to create that sentence.
You and me.
No,
Okay.
no. If my word was resilience, I need to make a sentence with that word. So
Okay.
your word was fierce and hopeful. You need to write a line, a sentence with that
Laura's
word.
already got it. She's doing the example.
Oh, yeah.
Laura
And
is by example right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna write mine, and you can write yours.
Okay.
In the chat.
Do you want us to put our line in the chat?
Yep.
Okay.
It's hard. It's difficult.
You can do it. Si se puede. Guys, it's so beautiful what you're writing.
That's it. Do we all have our lines, our sentence? No?
There are 13 of us, so we need 13 sentences.
I'm passing, so it would be 12.
Okay.
Thank you. I forgot to offer that passing is perfectly fine. Do folks feel like, oh, there it is. Okay. Now we have everybody.
Yeah, we have 12, right?
See.
Okay, so the next step is to try um, to give a sense to those sentences. And I don't know, maybe we can read those sentences to see just in the order that we wrote, just to see what our thoughts made, what we made together. Yeah, Katie, maybe you can read all the sentences.
Okay, I can read them all. Water is flowing over the rocks. I will build this world of a fierce, hopeful love. I am a people person. I am because of you, and you are because of me. The fierce activism of youth mellowing now into a quiet power unrelenting. We are connected to our creator, the universe, and each other. Separation is an illusion. This is cheesy, but I love it. They lied to you. Curiosity didn't kill the cat, it liberated the lioness. Wandering through the land, people seeking helping hands. Open your eyes and your heart and look at what I have discerned. We born every day because resilience is our name. Let me be useful to bring about the great shift. My path to walk in your ways remains always sure and steadfast despite the storm. Seeking meaning in everything and everyone in every moment of time's turning.
I think it's a good poem.
I think
What
it's
do
a
you think?
poem.
Yeah. And now let's try to transform this poem in a song. And yeah, like Katie said, maybe if there is someone who doesn't want to participate or to sing, it's free to say it is allowed not to participate. Yeah, and yeah, maybe Katie, and you can begin with the first sentences, and then and then who feel free to to continue that song.
Oh, so you want me to begin with sentence 1 and then you do sentence 2?
Yeah, with a melody.
Oh, okay. All right, hold on.
That's it.
Water is flowing over the rocks.
I will build this world of our first hopeful love. Who's next? Can you sing again your line, Katie?
Water is flowing over the rocks.
I will build this world of a fierce, hopeful love.
Water is flowing over the rocks.
I will build this world of a fierce, hopeful love. And
I am a people person. I am because of you, and you are because of me.
I am a people person.
I am because
of you.
And
you are because of me.
You are because of me.
Can you do it one more time?
Okay.
That I am a people person. I am a
People person, I am because of you, and you are because of me.
Water is flowing over the rocks.
Build this world of a fierce, hopeful love.
I am a people person, I am because of you, and you are because of me.
A fierce activism of you, melding now into a quiet power, unrelenting.
Again, Eno.
A fierce activism of you, mellowing now into a quiet power, unrelenting.
Maybe we can sing those 4 lines, those 4 sentences, Katie. And just as a example that sometimes we can create something great together, and yeah, from our we are strong together as we construct this song, and we are constructing a world.
Water is flowing over the rocks.
I will build this world of a fierce, hopeful love.
I am a people person, I am because of you, and you are because of me.
A fierce activism of you, mellowing now into a quiet power, unrelenting.
Thank you, people. Well, poems, songs, and arts in general, as the example of the park. I don't remember the name of the park. With all those tools, let's say tools, we can transform the world. We can transform the ideas about the world, about the worlds, because we know that there are many ideas about people, about group of peoples, but we can our job in making peace is also to deconstruct those ideas in order to create new ideas, new yeah, those new ideas where love will be the main the main concept to put on together in one way. I think this is the one of the power of the songs and poems and storytellings, to first individually to express and understand how we feel, and when we are passing hard times, we can just feel our hearts, feel inside of us, and maybe if we have the chance to write those thoughts, to write those feelings, and that is a function, that is something powerful about songs, poems, and arts. So there are another functions also.
Yeah.
We, me and Katie and me, we talked about four functions of the power, or four powers. There are many powers to in using music, poems, and in general storytellings. The first, I recently said that storytellings can help us just to know, just to heal as individuals, as knowing what we are feeling, what we are passing, and writing those ideas. It's a good way to letting the feelings, letting our to free our spirits. Yeah. There are another one, Katie.
Yeah. The also to anchor ourselves in what we want to lead us through our lives. So recalling a story, recalling a poem, or singing a song reminds us and re-anchors us, re-roots us in what we want our beliefs to be built from, and what ways we want to move forward in.
And also they give us a vision, and sometimes in our daily fights, let's say that way, in our daily problems, and, or even in our jobs, seeking for good things in life, seeking for justice, for peace. Sometimes we need, like, we are falling, we need someone to support us, and that could be made by songs also when we need. Sometimes those songs and poems can remind us that there is a vision that we are that we want to go, that we have like an horizon, and we have hope that all the dreams that we have will be come true. And yeah, it's like songs and poems give us a vision that everything that we are thinking, that we are dreaming, will be true, and we believe that, and we remind that true through poems and songs. And if you have a favorite song to motivate you, you can use those tools when you are falling, when you feel sad, or yeah, those negative feelings.
Yeah. So yeah, the song I hear when you say that is, keep your eyes on the prize, hold on, hold on, hold on, keep your eyes on the prize, hold on. Which also brings me to when you sing songs that were sung by your ancestors, and the songs transcend space and time, and they are in this moment. So they both root us in where we are right now, but they also draw together the past and the future. They're like the thing that can be past, present, and future all at once. Aside from you. Well, I mean, I guess everything kind of is with the DNA, if you think of the history, the way history works. But but when we sing a song that has also been embodied, when we embody songs that have been embodied by the spirits who have come before us to make the world a better place, we carry with us in that song carries a different power, and we carry a different power. And then we bring those people almost present with us when we sing those songs, or we read those poems. We bring that time present in ourselves, and I actually believe it can rewire us. Like, and I think that's probably true of also like reading religious texts and reading inspiring stories, that your brain rewires itself, and you know, it gets unhooked from the things it shouldn't be hooked to and gets hooked back up to the things that should be moving us through. So
yeah. And so many thank you to you all for assist to because you hear us, and just this workshop was just to remind us that the power of the songs, poems, the power of deconstruct ideas, it's important. And even if we don't think we are artists, we can closely work with people who can translate events and their meanings into emotions through poems, music, visual arts, or another way to tell stories. And it is important don't to forget that first we must to identify our stories, to heal and to work every day to be the person we want to be, accepting what we are feeling, and accepting that we are permanent process. And maybe we have many things we have interiorized and we need to change, and construct new histories for us and new histories for others. And yeah, that was our goal to share in this workshop. Thank you all.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I have saved the chat, and I will include our poem in my email with the link to today's session. So folks will get that. You can keep that forever. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Katie, so much.
Thank you so much for sharing and enriching us, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was awesome.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank you to Michael.
Oh yeah, I will tell him.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.